The liberal Democrats continue their anti-American assault. And now, with the presidential election just 115 days away, the plan for the destruction of our democracy rests on the coronavirus death rate ruse. The anti-freedom, fear-mongering media have fortified the Democrats' position. And with COVID-19 infection and hospitalization rates on the rise, is our nation on the verge of another shutdown? This ahead and more today on the Closet Conservative Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Wright. Let's get started. According to the CDC, there have been over 3.1 million COVID-19 infections here in the United States. With nearly 60,000 new infections daily, the Democrats are determined to do whatever necessary to incite fear further among Americans and shut down our nation's businesses and schools ahead of the 2020 presidential election. You see, for the Democrats, our country must be at a point forward of November to where everyone is scared to leave their homes. And thus, the mail-in voting apparatus brought forward by VP frontrunner Kamala Harris becomes a grim reality. Democrats know that despite Joe Biden leading all current national polls, the senile wannabe socialist cannot win the 2020 election from the confines of his basement. He must have some help, and the rigging of ballots is the left's recipe to remove Trump from office once and for all. The roots are planted already, ladies and gentlemen. The first shot was fired earlier this week by none other than the Ivy League, which announced that all upcoming fall sports were canceled due to the coronavirus. The Big Ten later followed suit, publishing no out-of-conference play would take place, leaving some teams and their players without competition. The liberals are heavily relying on their indoctrination force and to feed fear among higher education, with a top-down, trickle-down effect to keep our nation's children and their parents at home until after the election. Folks, nothing short of our liberty is at stake here. If the Democrats and Nancy Pelosi are successful in solidifying mail-in voting, Joe Biden will be the 46th president of these United States. I want to discuss a subject that not many people are talking about, which is concerning giving the left's intentions. Leading up to the election, Democrats want to ensure that they solidify their target audience, which is our nation's youth. The number one reason why Democrats want to force our schools closed fearfully and have remote teaching nationwide beginning in the fall is to instill further and expand their anti-American indoctrination campaign without interference. You see, for the left, if they can use the anti-Trump rhetoric of socialistic high school teachers and college professors into the earbuds and iPad screens of students, they believe they can turn the tide of the 2020 presidential election. For parents, the struggle of working from home is daunting, and thus they will have to rely on both the student and teacher heavily, working together and remotely without any classroom supervision. The outcome is an effective, broader reach, anti-conservative, anti-Republican, and anti-Trump learning agenda and environment, which will do nothing for the educational advancement of our nation's children beyond influencing their vote in November. For the socialist educators of higher education, their intent beginning in August is to spoon-feed how Trump is bad and how Biden and the Democrats can bring America forward despite her current knee position among the Black Lives Matter movement and the social injustice farce encircling our nation. It is imperative that as a nation and as responsible conservatives, we know the true intentions of the left. This virus has had nothing to do with more than wreaking havoc on our national economy and setting a platform forward to destroy Trump. By now, we're all aware of how the left attempts to control purchasing power and societal viewpoints from the boardroom. Last week, Nike, Walmart, and Target announced that they will be removing the sale of all Washington Redskin memorabilia until the team owner Dan Snyder agreed to change the team's name. Later this week, Amazon also joined those forces. But you see, to the Native Americans in this country, They don't quite care about the name. No, the ultra-sensitive liberal scholars and African Americans of this country believe that the Redskins name is offensive. But what is laughable is that for companies like Nike, they believe that their company's position of equality will force Snyder and the Redskins to change the name. But all the while, Nike enslaves Chinese children for pennies on the dollar for the manufacturing of their $300 athletic shoes. For over 2 decades, Nike has been under scrutiny for their working conditions and pay across the globe. Meanwhile, the professional athletes adorned with their shoes shout equality and Black Lives Matter from their YouTube and TikTok accounts. Folks, this has nothing to do with equality. This is merely nothing but continued political pandering and a playbook of how not to appear racist and show that someone is semi-concerned with skin color. We need to wake up, ladies and gentlemen. The very stake of our nation's democracy is in the balance between now and November. In less than 4 months, our country will pick another leader. We have all seen what liberalism has to offer. The destruction and death brought on by the BLM and the Democratic-funded anarchist groups is what is actually on the ballot. Defunding police departments and putting community activists in charge of the health and safety of our nation's citizens will absolutely destroy our country. And pardon me for being a little bit concerned, but I have seen some of these yahoos in action. And a grown man wearing a woman's nightgown and high-heel shoes doesn't really illustrate a show of force and security to me. No. For me, a uniformed officer with a semi-automatic is a heck of a lot more intimidating than a grown man with a stiletto. Listen to me when I say this. Trump is in trouble, folks. He needs our help. For over 3.5 years, our 45th president has battled these liberal Democrats to preserve and protect our freedom. But he cannot do it alone. As conservatives, we must realize that every single one of us must see the Democrats and their destruction for what it is. Our nation deserves better than socialism. Our country was founded as a republic, under God and indivisible. Join with me today, and let's stake our claim to what is truly ours. We will not go silently into the night of socialism. No. We will fight the liberals on every street corner, every classroom, and every news and boardroom that mandate compliance. The last card has been flipped, and the chips are up. It is high time we go all in on the blood, the sweat, and the tears shed for our nation for over 244 years. If we fold, folks, we forget our freedom. And if we lose, with our pockets turned inside out, we will forever sacrifice our existence within the world. And the perfect experiment designed by our founding fathers will be forever lost. This is Eric Wright, and this has been the Closet Conservative Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast. Please remember to give a 5-star review and share our podcast with your friends. The Closet Conservative Podcast is a production of The Liberty Loft. Copyright The Liberty Loft, 2020. You can find more shows and information on our website, www.thelibertyloft.com, or any of our social media channels.